My name is Max, and this is Tablenauts, and today I am joined by Doolin and Tia from Tikyjo, and we're going to do a top 5 solo board games to get yourself started in the board gaming hobby. Before we get started, I'm going to pass the baton over to Tia, and she can tell you a little bit about her amazing YouTube channel, and of course, check her out, link in the description below. She has a wonderful YouTube channel, and you'll hear more about what she has to say in this video.
So hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Max and Doolin. Super excited. My name is Tia. I really enjoy games, both multiplayer and solo. Over on my channel that I started just recently, I have a lot of solo parties where I do playthroughs, tutorials, reviews of solo games. We have some top 10 lists, some fun challenge type videos as well. And yeah, so I'm definitely excited to be here talking about solo games because that's got a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we got you for this video specifically. If it wasn't for some of your videos, I probably wouldn't have known about quite a few of these. So thank you for your lists. They're wonderful. They're great recommendations. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, I can't think of a better place to start if you're interested in solo gaming beyond this video, because that's the entire purpose of this video. But then her entire channel, well, not entirely,
just
but
click
a lot
away.
of it
You
is
don't need to
dedicated.
watch this video.
That's
Just
true.
go to her.
Link in the description. Go ahead.
Fine.
And I'm just going to be here kind of along to the side, along for the ride, just like you all are. I have not prepared a list. I'm not near knowledgeable enough to do that for you. You don't want my list because I don't even know what it would just be like 5 rolling rights.
The blind leading the blind.
Anyway, who's going to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you can start this time.
Okay, so number 5 is actually a game we've talked about on our channel before and played it with Max, and then I played it with Emily, and then I decided that I actually liked it best solo. I think that these games actually play best when you're by yourself because you don't have to share the phone, you don't have to, pace yourself based around the other people. Not that I don't like Emily or Max, I just thought, I don't know, I like this better by myself. This is Chronicles of Crime, specifically 1900. I really like this one. It's by Lucky Duck Games and David Secures. I probably butchered that and I apologize. But this is a murder mystery deduction style game that you actually use QR codes in an app to play. And I have had a blast. It's one of the most unique experiences in a game I've ever had. And this theme is way more approachable. And for some reason, the QR system is way better. Way better.
I don't understand it.
I played this first, and I went back to the base Chronicles of Crime because I loved this one so much. And I had so much trouble getting the reader to read the cards on the base game. And I think it was mainly because I've been spoiled with this one. It's just like from across the room even, I feel like I could get these to read well. And it's just really great storytelling, really fun deduction game that I think might play best solo. So this is my number 5.
That's amazing. I've played the original Chronicles of Crime, and while I loved the immersiveness, and it almost felt like playing an old room escape kind of flash click and point game, which I loved. Mm-hmm. The thing that was the biggest hang up for me was the QR codes. So hearing that they improved on that system, I am like all in to try 1900 because I was like, oh my gosh, because it breaks the immersion, right? If you're like, I want to interview that guy. And then you're spending 20 minutes trying to get it to scan. And I'm like, can I just type in the letter? So, but yeah, they're impressively immersive. And the stories I remember were really, really good from the first one. So I can only imagine there's even more of that in 1900.
Yeah, as someone who won't have much to say about how they work solo, I definitely have to chime in and just say that if you like base Chronicles of Crime, Millennium series, 1900, 1400, I assume 2400, blows it out of the water. Like, no question.
Fantastic. Well, I have a game added to my list already. Hopefully y'all at home are taking notes. My top 5, or my 5th pick is one that is kind of an oldie, but a really goodie. And it's from Shadi Torbey's Oniverse series. And this is Onirim. This is a game that plays off of just kind of like a solitaire card game, which is what I grew up playing, just with a deck of cards. In this game, you're going to be shuffling through a deck and trying to unlock doors to the Oniverse by having cards of certain suits, whether there are moons, suns, and different symbols lined up in sets of 3, which will unlock doors. Now, one of the reasons why I love this game for a starting solo game is because it plays off of familiar mechanics of creating sets. Like if you've ever played Gin or something, or shuffled a deck of cards, that's kind of what's in this box. But the art, the whimsy is so exciting. And if you get the second edition or the newer editions, anything but the first edition, basically, it comes with 7 different mini expansions in the box that you can mix and match. So if you want something a little more challenging, you could start, or if you want something easier, you could start with just the base game, and it kind of scales from there. If you're like me and a glutton for punishment, you can put all 7 expansions in at once. So there's a lot of replayability, even just from one game. This is a great one to start with because it's very easy to learn and very easy to get into. And the rest in the series are also great, but this is probably the best one as far as like getting into that series and getting into solo gaming.
I was going to ask, I thought that was part of a series, so that's good to know. Yeah, I've heard this one before, I think from your channel, actually. But.
And Shadi Torbay, he just seems like an amazing human. He's actually, his full-time job is he's a professional opera singer. So he does this on the side, and they're so good. I'm just I'm impressed and crushed all at the same time. Like, in none of my hobbies am I as successful as he is. So
Same.
All right, I'm already writing down some to
insert the SpongeBob. Write that down.
No, you might have heard like immediately as soon as she like said it. I was
about to say I saw you make your mic and start looking down. I assumed you were writing something.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on to my number 4. This one's gonna be a weird pick, but it felt weird not having a abstract strategy game, or not strategy, abstract like tile placement game in my list because I love them so much. And this one I think has the best solo mode, and this is Calico. This is really, really cute system where they have little missions, I guess. I don't know how best to put it, but
scenarios.
It tells you how to put together the tiles that you're going for, the cats that you're trying to win over, and like all of these different things. And then it gives you a number that you have to get, kind of like Bandata, where you're going for a specific amount of points. But this is just a really cute game already that's super fun. It's a great puzzle game by itself. But the fact, when I found out from Max that it had a solo version, I was very, very pumped to get my own copy. A game is good, to me at least, when I'm willing to buy my own when Max already has it. And this was the case for this game. And I'm really looking forward to playing through all of the little missions that all of the little cats want you to get a certain amount of points for, and trying to beat the game that way by myself. So yeah, Calico.
Yeah, you do have a particular affinity to cats, though. You love cats, so the theme...
Yeah, unfortunately not. I am highly allergic, and I wish that wasn't the case. And every time I'm over at your house, it's a nightmare for my allergies. But
as someone who's also highly allergic to cats, I can vouch this is a really good game, even if you don't love cats as well. But yeah, this is one that I have not gotten to play it solo. I know that Danica over on her channel has played it solo, which I just loved watching because I love Calico. And while I love playing it, it's one that is very crunchy. It's deceivingly crunchy, which makes me love it kind of even more because I hate myself while I'm playing it. Because getting those little tiles, it's like, oh, I just have these 3 objectives on my board. I can definitely manage those, especially if I don't worry about the cats and what have you. But it is deceivingly hard to get the right tiles in the right places. Yes. And there's so many times where it's just like, palm sweaty, mom spaghetti. I need that one tile. Gimme. So it's very tense, but it's super rewarding when you do get those combos lined up and when you get those cute little cat tokens to put on everything. Oh, and they're all curled up so nicely.
And I think that the only difference between the base game and the solo experience is whenever you're drafting from the 3 tiles up at the top, the one you pick obviously stays with you, and then the rightmost one gets eliminated.
You trash one,
it actually might help you because you're getting more of the tiles you want. You're definitely not going to have the problem that I always have, which is that Max or Emily always takes the one that I
Yes.
need when it comes up, and then I don't get to finish the thing that I want to. So
All right. My number 4 pick is a game that plays great solo, but it also plays great at 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, larger player counts. It's one of my all-time favorite games, and that is Railroad Ink.
Yeah.
This
I
is
knew
such
this
a
would be here.
fantastic. I know. I can't help it. I bring it up in like every other video. I'm sorry. It's got so much variability. There are 4 different editions of the base game, which include 2 unique mini expansions each. So you can kind of choose the one that plays to your flavor. The game itself is really simple to get into. And then learning the mini expansions just adds like 1 or 2 new rules per mini expansion. It's got incorporations of dice, and it has drawing. So you're drawing your different routes, trying to make the most impressive grid. So it's very puzzly. And Railroading Challenge also adds new buildings that you can get. In the most recent Kickstarter, they even released an official solo board that gives you radio towers where you can re-roll some dice. So that's, I don't know how available that particular board is, which is probably why it's not a little higher on my list, because I think for the solo play, it really does benefit from that. But you could also just get some stickers and mark up one of the basic boards with those radio stations and utilize it that way as well. But this is one, again, that I play a lot on my lunch breaks because it's just very calming and relaxing. And it's kind of you roll the dice and do the best with what you get, but it's super satisfying to play every time. And there's so much content for it. And unlike maybe some other larger games, each little pack is, like a couple dollars. So, and each pack contains up to 4 different mini expansions. They're like little gum sticks almost. So I just think it's really good value, and you can just kind of get anything. They have a Cthulhu themed pack. They have a pack has a rainbow in it. They have like Pac-Man. They have some like other things and buildings, and just like more Euro-y type of pack called the Future Pack. So yeah, there's just a lot. I'm going to stop talking now for this game, and we'll hear from Max and Doolin because
that's all right.
I can go on and on and on.
Have you played the app for Railroad Ink Challenge yet?
I have not played the app version. I've played it quite a bit on Board Game Arena because it's on there as well. And that's kind of my go-to. I don't do a lot of app gaming, but I've heard that it's pretty good. And I think that would be a great way to get into it as well.
I was going to say, I can actually talk a little bit about this. The Railroading Challenge app. Do you have a preference on normal or challenge?
So when I typically play it, I have usually played it with the challenge board, utilizing the buildings, but not always the challenge cards. Okay. So yeah, a mix of the two.
I much prefer challenge to the base, just the extra objectives and like the combo ability of the buildings and things like that it allows you to do. I definitely prefer the challenge. And I mean, I can at least talk a little bit about this because I have played quite a bit of the app solo. The Railroad Ink Challenge app is great, like beautifully animated, beautiful art. It works really well. And there's like a leaderboard. You can compete for the highest score. It's one that like when I first bought it, I probably played it like 2 hours a day for like the following 2 weeks. And I was like, all right, Max, like you got to cut back. Like this is cutting into some important things in your life. So I haven't played it as much lately, but I highly recommend Railroad Ink, specifically in my opinion, Railroad Ink Challenge, but either of the two are excellent solo games. Absolutely agreed there.
So my number 3 pick it was a toss-up. I was very close to not making this number 3. It was almost going to be number 1. So again, my problem with the other previous video, 3 to 1 is difficult to rank for me. But number 3 is by Van Ryder Games. And it's a game that everybody is high on right now, and it's called Final Girl. And I've fallen in love with this game. I've only played it 4 times. But
you just got it. I've only
times.
played it 4 times.
Well,
I had it for like 2 weeks.
Some of mine on my list I've played a lot. Like Chronicles of Crime, 1900 I played a lot. Never mind. Not. I didn't say that. I don't know if either of you know much about this game, but it essentially plays out like a horror flick. And it's completely solo. You can't play with other people, and you're playing as the stereotypical final girl in the movie in a slasher film. And this is where the girl realizes there's no turning back. She's got to turn and face this evil and go head on. And it's such a fun experience. I have only specifically the base copy, which has, and you're seeing it here, Camp Happy Trails with the Hans the Butcher villain. He kind of plays as like a Friday the 13th Jason type character. He runs around the camp murdering a bunch of teens who are just trying to, be at the camp, have fun together and stuff. And it is so difficult, and I love it. I've played it 4 times. I've only won it 1 time, and the 1 time I won it was so satisfying. The way the game plays out sort of reminds me, if you've played Horrified before, the map movement is very similar. The fact that you take your turn where you're trying to run around and move around these innocent people who are just squishy. They get killed really fast, trying to like move them off the map, and you get special abilities for that. But the real thing is, every time he kills, he levels up, and he kills so fast and so easily, and very quickly can this game just get away from you if you're not careful, because the leveling up system for the monsters is scary. And that's like, there's been few times I've actually had dread in a game, and most recently when I won, I was feeling really good about halfway through, and he jumped 5 levels in 1 turn, and I just I had to put everything down for a minute, and I had my hair in my head, in my hands, and I was just like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know how I'm gonna get past this. I'm talking a lot about just the mechanics of it, but I think the theme is incredible. I think the fact that you buy the base box and then you have to buy these expansions that are sort of like DVD or VHS boxes, and you can mix and match the locations and the villains is just super cool and super neat. I'm very interested in getting a bunch of this. And then to top it all off, they've announced a season 2 that is going to have a Kickstarter this year. So I'm already anticipating that and hoping to get that too. But great game. I'm really glad that I got it. Our friends over at Foster the Meeple actually got it for me, and I was really grateful for it. And I'm glad that they got it for me. So yeah.
That's awesome. I've seen like the internet blow up about this game, and I had not heard of it prior to like maybe a week ago. So this one is a new one for me as well. And one thing that you said about it, Doolin, that really intrigued me was that the monster has a level up system. So that's not necessarily something that you see in a lot of cooperative style or solo games with centered around this theme. It's usually you're leveling up and then you fight more monsters. So I like the idea of you have that one main villain, but they're getting stronger as you go. That sounds really cool.
This is certainly the solo game that I'm most interested in. Like Final Girl is, I know, yeah. I mean, that's kind of why I was like, hey, you should get this for Doolin, because then I can borrow it. I mean, the theme, I love slasher films, like stuff like that. I grew up on like Friday the 13th, and I haven't seen a lot of the newer ones, but like I just like that campy horror theme. Like all that stuff is just really exciting for me. And obviously I've never played a solo game, but like something like that really ticks a lot of the boxes for me. And it's easily the one that I'm most excited about.
Very cool. All right. Awesome. Well, moving on to my number 3. This is a game that also has a great multiplayer. I want to say a multiplayer version, but really the solo is the solo variant. But this is one that, again, much like my previous pick, Railroad Inc., I talk about ad nauseum to whoever will listen. So here it is over on y'all's channel now, and that is Capital Lux 2 Generation.
Okay. I'm going to have to write this down. It's already on my wish list.
Yep. So this is a drafting game where you are going to be playing cards either to the capital or to your hometown. It's got kind of a blackjack mechanic where at the end of the round, if the sum of cards in your hometown exceeds the limit set by the capital, you bust and lose all of those cards. And the cards will have values, which will score you points. When you play to the capital, you're benefiting yourself and rob the AI opponent, but you also get unique abilities. And the original Capital Lux is one of the only games that I've given a 10 out of 10 rating because it's just that good. I think it's the only base game that I've given a 10 out of 10. I've given 2 expansions a 10, and this original game a 10. So this is really like dead serious when I say I absolutely love this game. And I think it's fairly easy to get into. The drafting isn't too intense. It's just 6 cards that you're going to be gaining from round to round, or at the beginning of each round. And the blackjack mechanic feels very familiar if you've ever played blackjack. And it's, again, a game that's mostly just comprised of cards. In Capital X2, there are a couple extras that you can throw in as well. So there's a lot of variability and replayability because you can change out the capital powers from game to game. And I just think I put off trying the solo mode for quite a while because in my mind, this was such a perfect game. And if the solo mode didn't live up, I was going to be crushed. But then I finally played it solo and did a video over on my channel for it. And like, I've said this a million times, but I'm so mad that the first thing I didn't do was play it solo when I got the Kickstarter for Capital X2, because it totally lived up to my expectations and all my hopes and dreams.
I'm muted. I have never heard of this game before. I must have missed the video that you did on it.
And it's like one of those.
Even heard of it.
No one had, and it was out of print for a while. But even before that, it was released in 2017. The original,
looky there.
From Porting Game. Hey, look, I know her. But yeah, the original was released, and it was like nothing I've ever heard of. And anytime I would do a Google search, it would like be some weird, dank Reddit where everybody's like, "Oh, I love this game so much. Why I've never heard of it?" It's like 5 people just like circling around each other. But this is by far a fantastic game. So if you're thinking about getting into solo gaming and not sure you're going to love it, you should get this game anyway, because you're going to love playing it with other people. But I guarantee you'll probably love it solo as well. So this is a very solid pick.
We're going to get this game, Doolin. We got it. It looks really cool. I'm interested.
Listening to you talk about this one on your channel, I was going to buy myself a Christmas gift to solo game something. And it was a toss-up between this one and the one I ended up picking that is my number 1. And we won't talk about it just yet. But
no spoilers.
I appreciate this one. I'm really looking forward to getting it eventually too. So great pick.
Thanks.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for Max to say one for some reason.
Yeah, come on, Max. Where's your pick?
Hey, okay, fine. You give me the floor, I'll jump in.
Go for it, man. This is your channel too.
Like I said. Hey, I don't know anything about solo games. So like we said, I haven't played many solo games. I kind of just going to tick the box off for roll and writes when we talked about Railroad Inc. I think pretty much any roll and write can work solo. Not to say that it's best solo. Some have more interaction than others. But certain things like Welcome to Cartographers, even like the upcoming Riverside by Chili Fox Games, like things like that, can work extremely well solo, and I still find them very fun. With Railroad Inc., I played the app a lot, and I also play Ganshan Clever, the app, a lot. And I never really considered those solo games, but they obviously are. They are solo games that I'm playing by myself on an app. But they work really well. They're something that I play regularly because they can be completed in 3 to 5 minutes. It's really just a joy to play those. But moving past roll and writes, I have spent a little time, not a lot, a little time with a huge, big game called Too Many Bones. And I've been not much, but I did play a little bit of it solo. And I do think that it's basically the same game, right? Like it is the same game solo that it is multiplayer, which is a good thing for mini games. And I think it works extremely well. The problem with Too Many Bones and other big box games is the setup. It's a lot of commitment to play by yourself. So as much as I really enjoy this game and as much as I think it works well solo, it is one of those things that pulling out an app or a roll and write or a card game that's a tiny box, like the setup and commitment there for what may be a 20 to 30 minute whatever, it's so much easier to get into. I think that the solo games that intrigue me the most are going to be those 1 hour and under experiences. And that happens to not really tick that box for me, despite me enjoying the game very much. That was your Max segment. Now that
Speaking of that, the reason my number 2 is as high as it is because it is a game that I constantly pull out when I need or I want to play a game, but only have like 10 to 15 minutes. And it promises to play in this amount of time. I accidentally gave it away earlier, and that is
Yup.
Fuse by Renegade Game Studios. And this is made by the same guy, Kane Klenko, who I'm kind of like more inclined to really like his games because I got to, like, before we did a channel or anything like that, I got to go to Gen Con with some friends, and that was right when Pandemic Rapid Response came out, which is by him as well. And I got to sit down, and we were being taught the game, and then this kid comes up with his board game box and is like, "Hey, can you sign this?" And we're like, my friends and I are all looking at each other like, "Is this guy like famous or something?" And then we're like, "So like, who are you?" And there he's like, "Oh, I'm Kane Klenko." And then he points at his name on the box, and we were like, "Wait, what?" Amazing, like mind blowing to me. And I got a copy of that and made him sign it at making him and interrupting another playthrough he was doing. So he might not actually like me very much. But either way, Fuse I liked even more so than Rapid Response, and it came out before Rapid Response. This is just a really, really fun dice management dexterity game that plays so well solo, and I can just pull this out, and it you set the timer to 10 minutes. The box takes no time to get ready. It's literally a deck of cards and a bag of dice, and the bag of dice is already ready. And you set a timer and you go. And if you don't finish it in 10 minutes, you lose. So it promises it can play really fast. But the fun thing about this is the management of your cards. So the dice you draft when you're playing solo is completely random. So that kind of gets removed from what you would get at 2 to 4 players because there is a lot of thinkiness around, okay, I need to draft this dice because that person can't, and how can I help my friends and also help myself when I'm drafting the dice. But at the same time, when you're playing solo, the big thing is when you pull these bomb cards out, I need to pull ones that are hard to finish. And then I also need to make sure I have like a couple of 1s and 2s in there that in case I get horrible dice, I can throw those dice on that card, because every dice that you can't use unfortunately counts against you and also requires you to re-roll them and then take off similar colored dice and similar numbered dice. And so you cannot waste any time in this game, especially if you're playing past the like easy difficulty. And so the card management is really where I think this game shines, because at the same time you're rushing really, really fast, and so you don't have a lot of time to think about it. But at the same time, you need to think about it. So the stacking of dice is really fun because you're going really fast. You can move your hands and knock all of them over, and then you ruin it and you got to restart everything. But just a really fun game. I need to buy Flatline because you've recommended this to me. If I like Fuse, I need to get Flatline. So Flatline is on my list of things to check out in 2022. But currently, Fuse is all I know, so it's my number 2 favorite solo game I've played.
Yeah, this is a great one. I love this game too, as well, multiplayer, and I haven't gotten to try it solo yet, surprisingly, because it's one that it's just such a good game that anytime I suggest it, everybody will play it. So I like I've never had the need to play it solo. But this, I can definitely agree. This is like pattern making that should be easy, but because of that timer and that little bit of a dexterity element, and like Doolin said, if you don't take certain dice, they really come back to bite you, because then you have to discard the ones you've already placed and worked so hard to math together. Like 4 + 2 = 6, duh. But when you're on a timer and when you've got like 4 cards you need to manage and all the dice, 4 + 2 = 6 is not always so obvious, which is really, really fun. And like Doolin said, the sequel Flatline, so the idea is like you're trying to defuse a bomb. Flatline is where you're at the hospital afterwards and trying to manage all of the patients coming in with wounds and injuries. And it's another dice speed game from King Klenko, which big fangirl here, so I'm super jealous you got to meet him. You're now the second person I know who's met him and been like, yeah, he was super cool. I'm like, oh, maybe someday.
And it was before Tablenauts too, so you know it wasn't just like, hey, he's trying to make connections. Like he was just genuinely a good guy. So
but yeah, they're both fantastic. I think Fuse is a little easier to get into and a little more manageable, less of a table hog for sure than Flatline. But if y'all check out Fuse or like that, then also check out Flatline, because they're both excellent games multiplayer, both excellent games solo.
Awesome.
So for my number 2, speaking of games that require almost little to no setup, my number 2 is a game that is going to be hopefully having a release next year. I may have talked about it in our most anticipated games for 2022 video, and that is Grove by designer Mark Tuck. So this is a direct sequel to his first 9-card solitaire game, Orchard, and this is an 18-card micro game where you are going to be overlapping cards to grow different types of fruits in an orchard. And it's a very straightforward, easy game to get into. Literally, the rules are just one page. So when you overlap cards, you have to have matching colors, and then you add together those values and show that on a die to track how many fruit are on that tree. And that's essentially all you need to know to get started for the most part. This game also features these objective cards. So you have unique objectives from play to play, which is really awesome. That's something that the original game didn't have. It was just to beat your own score. But now you actually have a target goal to reach. And this is just such a delectable little treat of a game. It's like a little truffle. And it plays really quickly. I would say like 10 minutes maximum. And it's another like lunch break game that I can play. And this is one that oftentimes when I play it multiple times because it's just so exciting and fun to play.
Anything that has a key lime pie card in it, like I'm all about. That's cool with me. That ticks the boxes right there.
Would you also recommend? You said Orchard is the name of the other.
Yeah. So I also have Orchard here in the printed copy. I made a print and play of both, but then I ordered Orchard when they came out with published versions again. Sideroom Games has fantastic quality, so you can check them out there. I really enjoy both, and even though they're the same core mechanic, Orchard for me is a little bit more relaxing. I think Grove is a little bit more challenging just with how the cards overlap, and you have these blank spots also, which are the groves, so it adds a little bit more. So if you're looking for something super streamlined and straightforward, I would go with Orchard. If you're looking for something with a little bit of like flavor and spice and challenge, then I would definitely go Grove. The nice thing about these games as well is they are available for free as print and plays. If you have like even a decent printer, or you could even just draw these cards, because all you need is, 5 circles and then like some yellow, orange, and green dots. Like, this is a super quick and easy build. If you're thinking about getting into solo gaming, but you maybe don't have the budget or aren't in a location where you can easily access some of these games, print and plays are a great option. You can usually find the files for a game on Board Game Geek, like Orchard has it. Grove has it. They're super easy builds. I just use Sagrada dice for my build. And they look gorgeous with the print and play version. So you can make a really nice copy for little to no time and have this amazing game that you can play over and over again.
All right. We're down to number 1, Max.
Doolin, let's hear it.
So everybody here already knows my pick, but to set the stage, this is
have way too much stock in my memory. I know what your 5 games are, but I can't remember.
I can't either.
This one was like, oh man, I wish that I could have played it the few times that I have before we did a top games new to me in 2021 video. But this is Set a Watch by Rock Manor Games and Todd Walsh. And oh my goodness, thank you so much for introducing me to this game, because it might just be recency bias, but it's one of my favorite games I've ever played. Like, it is genuinely so fun. Max, to sell you on this.
I was going to say, I know nothing about this.
Tia doesn't know anything. Tia knows everything about this. But it's a dice management adventuring card game where you're taking a party of D&D style characters who each have their unique set of dice, whether it's D8s or D6s, and they always have 3 dice. And you roll them all at the very beginning, and then you have a ginormous decision to make, because one character has to go to the fire that is going to be around the players as they fend off these waves of enemies. And they will essentially be the support for a whole round. They're going to stoke the fire with firewood. They're going to look ahead to the future and scout ahead at what the enemies are going to be or they're going to even allow you, if they've rolled doubles, to re-roll some of your dice that are poor, or something, or even help you prepare for the final round, which is like the ultimate difficult round where you have all 4 of your characters. Either way, it's such a thinky management game that I love. The same feeling that we got playing Too Many Bones, Max, is what I got playing this, where you have an adventure that you're going to go through with multiple locations, and each location has different varying problems that you're going to face, and even sometimes helpful ones, but mostly really, really bad. And they'll have a different number of enemies that you'll face, and you'll take the whole round. And I think the biggest difference for me between Too Many Bones and Set a Watch, and why I might even give the edge to Set a Watch, is you're not taking turns fighting. It's just you use all your dice, killing as many of the monsters as you can in the most efficient way possible, and everything that's left is going to do damage to you. And the way it does damage to you is horrifying, because instead of health, you actually are losing abilities that you'll have for later. And if everyone in the watch, which is the 3 characters you send to fight the monsters, lose all 3 of their abilities, you lose the game. And man, I can't tell you how many times where I've felt really, really comfortable. Everybody has all of their abilities going into a round, and I don't know what happens. All of a sudden, I draw a couple of summon cards, and the boss monsters get pulled in, and I lose. And I'm left sitting there thinking, I don't know how I could have prepared for that differently, but it's so good. I could talk about this game for a really long time. The theme is beautiful. The card art is really, really cool and interesting, but it's definitely one of my favorites that I've played. And saw it on your channel, and I really appreciate that you recommended it.
Oh, I'm so glad you love it. This is one of my top 10 solo games for sure. And it's like one of those that you can play with other people, but I just love this game so much that I just like don't want anyone else at the table to distract me. Sorry, friends and family. I love you so much, but my love for this game is just, it's on another level. And like Doolin said, the art and the theme, I love dark fantasy, so this is perfect. And I'm really attracted to bigger games like Too Many Bones or Gloomhaven or these large dungeon crawls, because that's a theme that really appeals to me, but the setup and teardown on it is just so exhausting. Like Max had said, this game really gives you that, but in a condensed package. And while it does take usually over an hour, it doesn't feel like an hour has passed. Yeah. Like I'll go through location, and I'm so immersed the entire time. Like Doolin said, any of the creatures that you don't attack not only deal damage to you and flip your abilities, but they get added to the horde, which in addition to the final location creatures, you add everything in the horde. Every monster that slipped away comes back for vengeance during that last round, and everybody's all in at that point. Nobody's tending to camp. Everybody's on watch. So the tension is just like, I absolutely love it. And I'm not somebody who looks for immersion in games a lot, but this one is so immersive. I am glad that you found this one at this time. Duke gifted me the sequel, Swords of the Coin, for Christmas. So I have been playing through that and gearing up to do a solo party video on it. And I'm like falling in love with the game that I already love so much, like all over again. I'm like, oh my gosh, twins, that's the dream, right? And you can combine them together now too. And there's, oh my gosh, it's just so good. So yeah,
y'all are selling me on it. Y'all are selling me on it for sure.
You're a fantasy junkie. This is
I'm very interested now.
It's weird too, because it says you can play 1 to 4, and I assume you'd give each person a character, but I just think that like especially if you played at 4, like the one person who has to go to the watch, or not the watch, the like tend to camp, would just be kind of bored for a whole 20 minutes. So I don't know if it would play
just
that
chiming
great
in like, hey,
one.
stab that guy over there.
All right, I'm more intrigued by this game. That's very intriguing now. It's up there with Final Girl as far as like what is the most exciting solo games for me to delve into.
We're gonna make a solo gamer out of you yet.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
I think that was like one of my first messages to you. You're like, I haven't played many solo games. I'm like, you just wait.
We'll get you
now
there.
I have Doolin on my side to convert you. It's two
That's
against
right.
one, Max. It's only a
Just
matter of time.
at this point. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So for my number one pick, y'all were so gracious in letting me break the rules a little bit here because I couldn't pick just one. My number one pick is actually a collection of games from a publisher who releases some of the best solo micro games out there. And that is some of the wallet line games from Button Shy. So I have a couple here quickly. I can like show them and everything. So one of the first ones that's kind of a standard one is Sprawlopolis. In this game, you are going to, similar to Grove, actually be getting these cards that will have a grid. And on the back, you'll have some scoring objectives. So as you can see here, it'll dictate which cards you want to place where, and you're going to just overlap them. So it's a little bit of tiling. Super straightforward mechanics, but the interesting combinations of scorecards, you get 3 of them per game, is really, really interesting. This is one that you can play with more than one player, but I think it just plays so well as a solo game. And again, it's one that's very relaxing. It's got a lot of pattern building in it as well. And it's kind of one of the standards of their brand as well as of their solo games. The next one I want to talk about super quickly is The Maiden in the Forest by Todd Sanders. This is another one that is a free print and play if you want to try it first. But the great thing, too, about these wallet games is I think they're only $12. And at least in the US, it's free shipping if you get to $25, which is like, yeah, that's so great.
Gotta get
it's
3.
very, very affordable. And they have like deals on international shipping, too. But this is a game where you're going to be setting up these tree cards in a circle. And you'll be utilizing the color of the tree and the little icons here on top. Like there's a comb, there's a bird, there's a leaf. And you're going to be casting spells to flip them over. Essentially, you're like entrapped in this enchanted forest trying to get out. This is probably one of the first micro games that I really got into. It's so elegant. Like you have to be very reserved and plan ahead, which I'm not always good at, but you have to plan ahead because if you flip too many trees, then you end up getting rid of the icons or the colors that you need in order to be able to trigger your other spells in future rounds. So this one is a really great little brain burner and it's got gorgeous art. The aesthetic's great.
I've
The next
not heard
one,
of that one. I've heard of a lot of Button Shy, but not that one.
It's one of my favorites, and it's one that I always recommend to people who are getting into solo gaming or getting into like more micro games. And it's one that like everybody says, oh my gosh, I got it. And I played it like 5 times back to back because it's just so good. And it's like one of those games that you can't, even though it's 18 cards, you can't really wrap your mind around the strategy in the first 1 to 2 plays. So it's like very addictive in that way. The next one is Food Chain Island from Scott Alms. And this plays off of kind of like the Peg Solitaire game where you're hopping over each other, except in this one, you have little animals that are on an island eating each other. So you're making like the food chain. Like the gator is bigger than the wolf, so it can eat it and hop to its spot. And then they have different abilities that will trigger. This one, again, plays off of very standard mechanics. It takes about 2 minutes maximum to read through the rulebook and learn it because the rest is just the card text and how they interact with each other. So this is a really cool little puzzle game. And then one of their more recent ones that is quickly becoming one of my favorite micro games is called Ragemore by our friend Boyan over here, who is also a big fan of Dark Souls like myself and was inspired for the card art by it. So that drew me in right away. And this is, I guess it's like a hand management game where on one side you have monsters and on the other side you have heroes. So they're multi-use cards and you can interact with the monsters by battling them head on based on their value, by recruiting them based on their symbols. And then you're going to have different events which will trigger. For the heroes, again, they have a strength, they have a symbol. You can recruit or gain cards to add to a quest based on the bottom of the card. I love multi-use cards, and this game is a really cool way of integrating that into this theme that I don't see often. Like usually fantasy themes, it's a lot of fighting and battling with dice or like bigger games. And this is one of the smaller games that really gives you that tension and that kind of fantasy feel, but only in 18 cards. And it's super fun. So yeah, all of these games, as well as others, there's like, if you like sci-fi, you should check out Spaceship. Like there's a new one called Rove that I just got that I'm really having fun exploring. Honestly, you really can't go wrong. And they have so much variety and flavor in all of their micro games and their solo games. Like literally just buy all of them.
Yeah,
they're so good.
Say, there's plenty of them that have interested me, but I've never tried them. In particular, you mentioned Rove, and there's another one that's about like I shouldn't even think of what it's called. It's like desert themed, beautiful art. I don't know. I saw that one recently, but yeah, those are always been intriguing. Actually, Josh.
I was going to mention this.
Yeah, who is one of our members before he moved to Japan. Well, he still is a member. I don't mean it like that, but he's been in Japan. But he loves Button Shy. I think I bought him Sprawlopolis and the Wagon, whatever that
Circle
was called.
Circle
the Wagon.
Yeah.
Prior to him leaving, because he was looking for like small games that he could take to Japan with him and play easily. And so I know he's interested in these. I have yet to play a single one though.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
well, do you have $25 laying around? If you
sure I can pull some together.
You should grab the two that appeal to you the most and play them because you're sure to love them.
You've not played one of these, have you, Doolin?
No, I haven't. I was about to ask if you could play. This might be a really difficult question, but if you could play only one of them, or recommended one specifically that people should get, what would be that one?
Oh my gosh.
A lot.
Okay, so if I had to recommend one for people to start with, I would probably say that, oh my gosh, it's so hard to do. It was already hard just picking these four because I'm like looking at my wall of games there and one over there. I would say Sprawlopolis is probably the most accessible if you're first getting into it and you want something that can play solo and multiplayer. So for that reason, that might be a good place to start. For me personally, and I'm super biased because of the theme and because multi-use cards, I really love Reach More. So that's why I'm saying, like, you know, if there's a theme that appeals to you, that might be the one that you love the most, because all of the mechanics are super solid in pretty much all of these solo games that I played. Antinomy is a really great 2-player game. They released a solo mode for it as I'm seeing them all scroll past the page. That one, that one is like Calico, where you're managing the numbers and the colors of the cards, and it's just there's just so much juicy puzzliness, and they all play pretty differently as well, which is fascinating to me because it would be so easy to get trapped into the same.
I love that thumbnail.
Yeah, that is a great thumbnail.
But yeah, they're just, all of them are so fantastic. It's hard to pick just one, which is why I was very grateful when I messaged Max of like, hey, so like how tight, like how strict is the 5 game? Can I like 5 positions with like multiple games?
We break rules all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. I figured. I was like, I've seen a lot of that on both our channels, so I think that would be, just sticking with the brand. But
yes,
yeah, Skulls of Sedilek is one that apparently is really good too. It's one that I haven't tried yet, but it's up there on the list. That's
up there as far as one that interests me more. I've heard many good things about that one.
What is that, Pirates? Maybe not.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think it's.
Yeah.
Skull. I mean,
you're building a pyramid of skulls.
I'm into it.
No.
Alrighty, and that is the entire list, right? That's
yes.
All. Anything else you want to say about solo games, or have you said your piece?
I really love solo games. You should give them a try because you might love them too. And I think one of the things is like people think, but somehow my love of solo games detracts from my love of multiplayer games or something. But for me, it's a very separate feeling. Like it's a different compartment of my board game love, if that makes sense. It's just such a different experience, and it can be a very mindful experience as well. And it doesn't really cut into time that I play. Like, even though I love solo gaming and play solo games a lot, like we still manage to have when the world situation is going okay, like 3 to 4 game nights a week sometimes. So it's like,
that's incredible.
It doesn't necessarily cut into your multiplayer game time or your multiplayer game love. If it's something that you're thinking about, or if there's a multiplayer game that you love and that has a solo mode, like I would encourage you to start there and try it, because it is such a cool little corner of the board game world, and it's only growing. And there's such an amazing community too. Like the Grove and the Orchard, the Mark Tuck games, every month they run like a different challenge. So even if you're playing by yourself, you can log into Board Game Geek on the forums and enter your score and see how other people did. And it's a really cool way of connecting with other people through solo gaming, which seems like it wouldn't be, but I've met so many cool people in the community. And yeah, you should definitely join us.
Give me 3 to 6 months and I'll make a follow-up to this after having played some things. Maybe not even that long. We'll see. It depends. I want to make sure I at least give a good try to a handful of different things. But I mean, I'd love to revisit this topic, even with you, Tia. We could revisit this 6 months from now and kind of see how your tastes have grown and how our tastes have developed with Doolin.
How many more Button Shy games are on the shelf?
Right. Exactly. Count them up. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm very interested in it, and definitely something I want to revisit in the future once we've got some more plays under our belts. But
yeah, and thank you so much for being in our video. It's kind of surreal because I mentioned to Max, like, hey, I'm getting really into this channel who they talk about a lot of games I've never played before. Like, it'd be really cool if we could reach out or do something. And he was like, oh yeah, we're already like scheduled to pretty much do it was really cool. So like I think it's been maybe a month and a half ago I got really into a lot of your channel stuff and love what you guys do over there. So if you guys haven't, our community, please go check their channel out. You're going to be blown away by the info that you'll get, and you'll really love it. So yeah,
and if you go check out her channel, you'll also see a video in which we discuss our top 5 upcoming games of 2022 that we're most anticipating, that we're most excited about. So we wanted to kind of
we're not doing that on our channel. So if you want those, go to our channel.
We wanted to bring solo to our channel because it's not anything we've explored yet. We've not really discussed solo other than you kind of briefly bringing it up in your Scooby-Doo video. And it's something that we want to try and dive into a little bit more, especially Doolin, but now myself try and figure out if that's something that you all want to see and that's something that we want to produce. But certainly best solo content on YouTube, link in the description. Check out Tia at Tikyjo.
Thanks so much, and thank you again for having me again. Getting your shout out and be able to talk, I was like, what? Because I know you guys started your channel just about a year ago, right? Yep. And so I started sometime shortly after that. So it's been just really great being able to talk, and thank you for being open to trying solo games. And Doolin, we're glad to have you in the community and so excited to talk more about Set a Watch.
I need to see expansions because I've heard that they're great too.
Yes, definitely.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Tia. And of course, one more time, check out the link in the description, find her channel, subscribe, binge it all. It's amazing content. And you may find yourself an interest in solo games, even if you don't already have one at that point. We'll see you next time.
Bye.